welcome back to the channel. I wanted to give you all an update on racing, what I found out in the data logs, some plans moving forward to make the truck faster, and some things that we could have done to have been faster the last time. When I went racing, it was 200-ish DA, which is really good DA. That's really good weather. Like, it's hard to get that, really. Most people don't even have the opportunity to ever get that, so I'm not complaining. But the issue that I found whenever I was looking at data logs of my runs was I would start off the line from 100 to 120 degrees, and I would end at 64, 70, 60 to 70 degrees during a run. And the ambient temperature was like 40 degrees that night. So I really have a problem getting cold air right now. As you guys know, I have that cold air intake by K&N, and if you watch the Partywagon performance video, I explained that a little bit briefly. Those are not cold air intakes. Those are not cold air intakes. They are aesthetically pleasing, meaning they look good, but that's really all they're good for. They look good, and yeah, I'm sure it's better than the factory, but they do not get cold air to them. So with that being said, I was wondering, well, how much better could I be doing with colder air? So I did some math. There's a few calculators on the internet. I used drag times calculator. That's a pretty popular one, and I think it's pretty trusty. So let's just do a little experiment here, a little thought experiment. Let's pretend, just to make it an even round number, that this engine has 400 horsepower. Let's just say it has 400 horsepower. It may be more, but let's just say it has 400 horsepower. So 400 horsepower at sea level, we'll say that. Alright, so it is a general rule of thumb that for every 300 DA is 1% of your power that is lost. So if you're at 300 DA, then now I'm losing 1%, which means that I'm losing 4 horsepower. If I have 400 horsepower at sea level, then 1% of that lost at 300 DA is going to be 396 horsepower. Not a big loss. 300 DA, not making a big difference. But I plugged into the calculator. I plugged in and recalculated the DA at those exact conditions, but I changed the temperature. I changed the temperature because the temperature the engine was seeing was not the temperature of ambient. So I plugged in what it was, the line. I plugged in 110 degrees. It came out to 5,300 DA. Everything else the same, just changed the temperature. 5,300 DA. So when you plug that in, for the DA drop, the difference in DA was roughly, we'll say for the sake of math, 5,000 DA difference than what I was seeing at the track ambient. My truck was actually getting a 5,000 DA difference because the engine temperatures were bringing up the charge temperature. The air charge coming in, which is not, that's a boost thing. Charge is usually, someone says charge when they're talking about the air charge coming from boost, but it's still an air charge. So the air coming in was 5,000 DA higher than ambient. That's not good, because when you do the math for that, I'm losing roughly, if I remember right, it's more than 16%. So let's say 15% to be cautious here. 15% of power. If you lose 15% of 400 horsepower, you're losing, hold on, let me do some math. What's 15 times 4? That's 60 horsepower. So it is safe to say I was losing at least 60 horsepower. That's not good. That's not good. Losing 60 horsepower, I mean, that's not good at all. So chances are we could go a lot faster time, and that's not even talking about transmission shifting issues, which turns out that the transmission was shifting really kind of weird, and I've been having that launching issue where it really just kind of bounces a couple times off of the torque converter, and that is being caused by a bad RFE. So the RFE transmission has a pump assembly. It's in the front. It's regulated through a spring, which is also located in there. So you have to pull the transmission off to service that. But the spring is what applies the pressure, and then the regulation effect comes from the other side of the regulator valve. Has fluid that pushes against the spring and actually lowers the pressure. So the default for that transmission is full line pressure. Well, the spring has got to be weak, or I have a bad pump, because I'm not getting good line pressure. I want to see like 160 at a full throttle shift or more, and I'm not even getting that. I'm getting like 130 at best, and very rarely. So it's got delayed shifting, and I'm having a launching issue. I think that the shifting and a launching issue combined is worth about 0.2. I think that the power loss from in that instance of racing that night, I also think with that DA and the loss that I saw because of my cold air intake not being a cold air intake, I think that I'm losing at least 0.2. It's safe to say I think that I can make up 0.2 with that, probably more. But so altogether, being conservative about it, I think I can do 0.4 better than that, which would put me mid 15s. But here, let's get under the hood. I'm back home. Let's get under the hood, and I want to talk to you guys about more about DA and just go over some stuff, cover some information. All right, let's go pop the hood. All right, guys. So yeah, you've seen this before. She's a little dusty right now, but you've seen this before. This is a cold air intake, and I say that not actually. I don't mean that in that sense that it's actually a cold air intake, because clearly it's not. So this is open on the top. It's got a big old hole that you can stick your fingers through, and just, yeah, that's hot air is coming through there, getting into here. This is drawing air that it doesn't seal against the hood or the crab. So yeah, that's not getting cold air. It doesn't even, this down piece, it's hard to see down there, but this piece goes down like not very much farther down. So all the hot air coming off of this radiator down underneath here is all just boom right there. So that is why it is so freaking hot. The air charge coming into here is so hot. So I've got a couple options. I found a couple kits out there. There's one that is very cheap. It's like $60. You can get it on eBay, Amazon, whatever. They come in all different kinds of colors, and it's just comes out, comes down here, loops down, and then goes down, 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 and then it's like probably about this height. So it's back behind the headlight. It's about bumper height. That's gonna be good if I want to run like a track intake. Now I may do that, may not. Probably gonna do something about this transmission first, because that's more of a bigger issue. But I can do that intake. It's a cheap knockoff brand, like some kind of cheap Chinese stuff, okay? But I'm sure it works. It's just not, they got the fancy brand names. It all looked like it had nice couplers and everything. So, and that's good to have, and it's only 60 bucks. That would solve my problem. The tube diameter is good enough. I think it's 4" all the way down, so that's plenty. This is probably only 4". Now the difference in getting that and the one I really want, and I think is the best one out there for one of these, besides maybe a Veraram. The Veraram intake, you can look those up, V-A-R-A-R-A-M intake. It like comes up and sits up above, and it's super nice and it looks good, but I'm not getting one of those. It's just not feasible for me. I don't want to do that. So what I want to get is an S&B intake for one of these. The S&B intake, they have them for all of them. They have them for everything. But the S&B intake looks a lot like this design. It comes up, comes across. This guy for the temp sensor is mounted in a different spot, and the fella right here for the PCV valve, not PVC, it's not pipe, PCV, positive crankcase ventilation valve. But for the PCV valve, for the crankcase recirculation, it's on a different spot. I think it might even be all the way on the box, which is even better. But I'll still run my catch can to filter out any oil, because I don't need that. If oil gets into your charge, into your engine, little fine oil droplets will actually reduce the octane rating of the fuel and air mixture, and it will actually make it to where you can't run as much timing, and we want as much timing as we can get safely, so because it's gonna make more power. So that's that. But yeah, I want to get this SMB. It looks a lot like this. Only major difference is it's completely covered. It has a clear cover for the top. It's an enclosed box. It's a lot nicer. It has a spot where you can draw air from down below, and it draws air from, if I can get it in frame, it draws air from a spot down in here, and that's where the factory intake actually connects. If you've ever seen one, if you have one, then you might have seen it. But there's a spot right in here where I can like stick my whole hand off in there. But that's gonna be good cold air. Now, as far as the transmission issues I'm having, the transmission that is currently in the truck is the one that I got from the junkyard. I rebuilt it. The clutches are all good. I put the shift kit in it, and it has an aftermarket torque converter in it, 2800 stall. The transmission that's in it has a problem with lower line pressure than it should have. Now, it's not low enough to cause an issue, but it's definitely doing something where it's not filling the torque converter enough on the launch. It's making it kind of bump a couple times on the launch, so I'm not getting the full stall effect that I want. And also, it's not shifting right because it's kind of lazy on the shifts. So what I'm going to do is take this transmission right here that I'm looking at. This is the original transmission out of the truck. Now, it's the same transmission. It's 545 RFE. If you watch the transmission video that I put up a few videos ago, I kind of go over what I had done to the transmission that's in the truck. But for this one, I don't want to use the SK45 RFE kit from Transco. I'm going to use the 45 RFE HD2 kit from Transco. The SK45 RFE kit is not a shift kit necessarily. It's more of a bug fix kit. It's a real reliability kit. So I'm going to take this transmission in front of me. We're going to use the torque converter that is in the truck now. So we'll pull this bad one out, and we'll take this transmission and put the 45 RFE HD2 kit from Transco. Now, that is the actual shift improvement kit as well as a reliability kit. So we'll get better shifting out of it, and I'll use the torque converter that's in the truck. There's nothing wrong with it. To fix the low line pressure problem. Now, the problem I'm having with low line pressure is not caused by it's not causing any like problems as far as hurting the transmission. It's not that low. It's just not getting to full line pressure like I want. So we're going to take the transmission here apart. I'm going to build it. This one has a fourth gear clutch issue, so I'm going to rebuild all the clutches with high energy clutches, good quality upgraded clutches, put the shift kit in it, and on this one, even though I didn't have a line pressure problem, I'm going to go ahead and build the front pump on this. So you have to pull the torque converter off, pull the plate in behind it off, and then there's a pump behind there. So I'm going to rebuild this transmission fully, and even better than the one that's in it currently, and make the original transmission out of the truck, go back in it, fully upgraded, fully built, and shouldn't have no issues out of it whatsoever. So that's my goals for the truck right now. I want to get a colder air intake to get good use of whatever DA we have, because clearly, I mean, the difference in the cold and the hot is causing a serious issue. I mean, I'm not making optimum air get into the engine, and then the shifting issue, I'm gonna fix that. But before I pull this transmission out, I'm going to do something about the exhaust, because it is right under the transmission the way it's mounted. So I'm going to take care of that. But that's just a little quick update on what I have going on performance-wise coming up. Y'all stay tuned. Subscribe, like the video if you want to see more. And thank you guys for watching Build It Motorsport. We'll see you on the next one.